last Friday because we were horsing around. When we got to the house we were renting in Atlantic Beach for the wedding, and it was one of those circumstances where somebody said, I'll give you $1 million if you can manage to trip and fall and hit the wall just right to tear open your lip with your own teeth.
Wow.
So we were an hour late to the rehearsal welcome dinner thing, and I got to go get these stitches out tomorrow.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry, Scott.
Just dumb. I mean, I'm more embarrassed. I mean, it hurt like the dickens, and it had to be stitched up because it was just kind of hanging there. I don't mean to be gross or anything, but so thankfully, everything worked out the way it was supposed to, I guess. So the swelling's gone down substantially the last couple of days, so I feel like I can kind of talk normal. So if you hear me sounding like I have a lisp, it's just because of that mess. All right, so I show us at 12:01 p.m. Eastern Time. Khaditra, I show us also having a quorum, so let's call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is our roll call. So Khaditra, can you handle that for us, please?
I sure can. Scott Iden.
Here.
Michelle Durner.
Here.
Barbara Marchioni.
Here.
Diane Holt.
Here.
Dixie Newsome.
Here.
Nicholas Potter.
Here.
Paula Rigsby. All right, and non-board members attending, we have Donna Rasco, Board Legal Counsel, Cheryl Hickman, who is a prospective board member, Steve Pond, Principal, and Khaditra Cooper, NHA Board Representative.
Perfect. Thanks for introducing Cheryl. I was just going to mention that. So you guys see Cheryl's smiling face in her camera. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Nice to have you with us.
Good to be here. Thank
you. Our next order of business is approval of the agenda. And Khaditra, I was trying to remember when we met week before last, do we have, I thought we had some amendments from the last meeting. Is the agenda that's contained in the board packet updated?
Yes, because we had time to do that since we met so early.
Okay, all right, cool. So, need a motion from the board for approval of the agenda, please.
This is Dixie. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Diane, I second it.
Okay, roll call.
All right, Scott.
Agree, yes.
Michelle.
Approved.
Barbara.
Approved.
Diane.
Approved.
Dixie.
Approved.
Nicholas.
Approved.
Oh, Nick's with us. Hey, Nick. Morning, sir. Or
Morning.
afternoon, I
Yeah.
guess. Nice to have you with us. All right. So, Khaditra, we have agreement on that. And our next item on the agenda is our management reports from our illustrious Mr. Stephen Pond.
Well, thank you so much. Again, happy September, everyone. If you had any questions, feel free to ask. Welcome, Cheryl. Just as we introduce our new students and our returning students back to full-time education, in-person learning, it's going really, really well. We are full. We're actually a couple over, as we shared on the report. We've offered open seats. We continue to do that, and we have a robust wait list, which really helps anytime we have a student who came back and decided, or they decided with their family that they did not want to be in person, that they're trying to go virtual. We just replace them very quickly from the wait list, and parents are very eager and very excited to join our pirate crew. NHA is continuing to consult. We have had several parents asking about how we make decisions, how we track any outbreaks or clusters. As you may see on the news, lots of other schools around us have had them, unfortunately, but we haven't. We are strongly and consistently committed to our safety protocols of sanitizing whenever you come in and out of the building, in and out of classroom space. We are assigning seats in the classrooms as well as in the lunchroom. So if we do ever have an outbreak, that allows us to trace the people who have been in contact with that person. Dr. Oliveros is NHA's epidemiologist, and we continue to get insights. And I'm on one of the safety groups with NHA, along with a couple other committees that we're doing. But we are very happy to share, as I did before the call started, that we don't have any positive diagnoses among any staff or students. Anybody who has shown any symptoms, because the common cold is going around and allergies are going around, anybody who's kept their child out to have them tested has reported back that they're negative. So we have them back as soon as possible to school. We have, as we shared back in July, the NHA Leadership Summit every year of 96 other schools. Besides us, they do the Eagle Awards every year for the top 10th percentile. And we did actually receive our awards now. So they're in the front lobby to go with the ones that we've received in the past. But again, we won the Safety Award. We also won the Enrollment Award this year. Both attendance, which was actual physical attendance percentage throughout the year, but then the attendance taking flight award was one that we made one of the highest increases in daily attendance. And that's partially attributed to virtual, where if children weren't feeling well at school, they could go home and get online. But we still take it because of the commitment from our staff and our parents to make sure students were attending school consecutively. We did come back August 19th. And again, that's 2.5 weeks ago, and we continue to roll. The first initial days, we're getting people back into routines and procedures, expectations of school, whether they were here last year or whether they hadn't been here in the 18 months since COVID came out. We did have a large number of families who did stay virtual throughout that entire time. And so getting back in and not only community building, but making sure everybody understands routines, procedures, and expectations. And then now that we're kicked into the first quarter or the first third of the year, we are focused on making sure that we continue to monitor through common assessments how students are doing on English and math performance. NHA helps us out with some of those weekly assessment periods within their pacing guide. And so we're committed to doing that third grade and up, as well as doing working on our reading fluency, because we know a lot of students that are in kindergarten or even those that are in first grade did not even have that 4-year-old preschool year because of COVID. So they were out and they were at home. And so we're finding that a lot of their proficiency is a little bit lower than we would normally see coming into kindergarten, or those who are in school for the first time in first grade. So we're really focusing on that as well. And then restoring and rebuilding our staff culture, since we've been separated for so long. As you know, in 2019 and 20, we did win the National Eagle Awards for employee engagement and satisfaction. And we want to win that again next year with everybody back together. We do, as I mentioned, continue to focus on that attendance and enrollment, with the caveat that if a child is not feeling well, we have asked parents to keep them home to monitor their symptoms and to get them checked, because it is easy to get those instant quick checks now at CVS and other places. Moving on to year-end data from last year, we'll talk about the third grade Read to Achieve in a bit, but we don't have our formal released data yet, but we can let you know that we scored based on our feedback from the state and all the data that we hand tabulated. We're going to be at least a B for last year, which is amazing because we had half of our kids at home for 18 months. Some were in and out during the year, and we were able to score above proficiency, and again, above the local district, above the state level. So that hasn't been formalized yet, but by our calculations, we're at least a B in math, science, and ELA across the board, which we think will place us again in the top percentiles of the state and within NHA. And we do have Read to Achieve to discuss at a separate item, but 79.5%, which is almost an A, of our third grade students were proficient in reading based on the mandatory Read to Achieve legislation that was put in place years ago. 80 is usually the cutoff to be an A, unless they manipulate or change that data this year. Staff-wise, we were very excited to open in full. We had one teacher who had given notice at another school, and so they couldn't start until next week, I believe they come in. But we had all those positions filled, and we've actually received approval because of our incredible diversity. Cheryl, you may or may not know, but we have at last survey students representing 39 countries of origin, 25 different languages spoken. So we do have a pretty robust English language program. And so we got approval from NHA to seek out and hire a second EL teacher to support and work alongside Miss Ambrosia, who's done an amazing job. And then we are looking to fill a couple of paraprofessional roles, which are those assistants to support students in general education and one in the special education program. And so we are getting resumes and we're interviewing people this week for some of those. Sports actually begin this week. So we're playing other NHA schools as well as some of the local charters who are not part of NHA's network. We have a volleyball match on Thursday here. So you're welcome to come anytime. Let me know. And I'm happy to get you a ticket set aside because we are limiting occupancy to two tickets per player just to make sure we can still space out. And then everybody's wearing masks that's not playing. And then looking ahead, we have delayed the club starting as well as field trips because we are arranging students by assigned seats in their classrooms and in the lunchroom. So for clubs, that would take students from every room and mix them together, which would negate the whole purpose of having some separation and distancing. So we are going to delay that, but we are going to work with PTO to still have our book fair, make sure students are coming in socially distanced. And then I met with PTO last week, and they're going to start to do a question and answer, what we're calling the Pondcast instead of a podcast. So we'll be putting that out for our families as well. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any you have, but we're trying to open with as much normalcy as possible, with as much commitment to being as successful academically and socially as we've had in the past.
So thanks, Steve. Just real quick, I just want to point out before we ask any questions, earlier, I apologize. I had my brain on the meeting minutes, but the approval that we did was for the approval of the agenda. We'll do the meeting minutes later in action items. I'm pretty sure Khaditra's got it recorded down that way, and sorry about that. I misspoke earlier. Does the board have any questions for Steve on the principal report?
Sounds like an excellent job.
Well, thank you very much. We've got an awesome team, and our new folks that came in have been integrating wonderfully, and they fit well. That's one of the things. Anybody that we receive a resume for is going to be qualified for the position that they're seeking, but we always seek to have the fit for our culture and our community to make sure that everybody meshes well together and everybody's committed to partnering and supporting each other. We call it a horizontal organizational structure where we all know what each other's position is and what positional authority they may have, but we're all committed to doing what we can do horizontally to make sure that we can lift everybody up together in the school.
Steve, I have one question for you.
Sure.
Since I've been working with you, I've noticed that you are literally like a trailblazer when it comes to leadership. So,
thank you.
Yeah, so the question that I have is, what are you doing to restore and rebuild staff culture, especially by everyone being out for so long?
One of the biggest things we're doing is we're going to start back up our committees at the end of the month. So we would have things like a data committee and a school culture and climate committee, positive behavior support. We weren't able to do those things last year with some teachers being at home and some at school. One of the things that we've done in the past, and we're changing it to Tuesday, is we used to call it Last Thursday. And it was the last Thursday of the month. We wouldn't schedule any meetings and ask people not to schedule conferences. And we can just stop working when car line ends. And those who want to could go out and have dinner together or go out and visit food trucks, or we've gone bowling in the past. We've gone roller skating in the past. And those are things that quarterly we will use our funding for. And then other times people just show up and they'll buy their own dinner or their own drinks or whatever it may be. But those are things that we feel really helps to connect our community from an outside of the office perspective. Another thing was on last year's budget and on this year's board budget request as well, is that professional development, because we want to commit to having opportunities to bring 6, 7, 8, 9 teachers to an institute type development every summer. And we're seeing the connection and the community building, not only with the group we brought last year, because several of them were new to the school, but also changes in existing people. We have one team member who has been very introverted, really good teacher, strong teacher, but doesn't do a lot of mingling, and that's just her personality. But we took her on this trip and she lightened up, enlightened. She was talking with everybody, and she would come out to dinner every night with us. And since she's been back, she floats around the building saying good morning to people. And it was never anything negative. It was just that she's more of an introvert, wonderful teacher, but socially more of an introvert. And so we're seeing those benefits in the relationships that we're building. But a big part of it, Khaditra, is hiring the right people. During the pandemic, there weren't the best candidates out there, but we worked with those who we felt could buy into what we were doing and we could help grow them. And a couple of them have moved on, and we had those crucial conversations with them, or they made the decision on their own that they wanted to find something else rather than the spirit of our pirate crew here.
Thank you.
And then another thing we're doing, I neglected to mention, Tom Miller, who you may know with Leaders Building Leaders, some of you may be on his email. I'm being interviewed by him on Thursday about the things we're doing at Peak. Tom used to be a consultant at the charter school office and now has his own leadership training, development, and coaching firm. And he selected a few principals throughout the state to work with. And so I'm doing that Thursday, and there'll be a live stream of it as well as a recording afterwards. So I'm happy to share that with you all once that happens.
Very nice. You are a trailblazer indeed, sir. I don't know where you get your energy from, but I need a bottle
Thanks
of
for
those pills.
I crashed pretty hard this past weekend. So.
Okay. Any other questions for the principal report? Well, then let's move forward in the sake of time. Let's move forward to the school performance report dashboard suite in the Read to Achieve. Mr. P.
Well, wonderful. As I've shared with you, moving into the handbook, you have the Read to Achieve end of year results, and that's the based on the state law, which is General Statute 115C 8310. We must publish every year the following information, which is how many students have demonstrated end of year proficiency based on the North Carolina Read to Achieve standards, which are that all students must be proficient on the beginning of year test, which our third graders took today, the end of year test, or the retest. And we have 70 of our 88 third graders who were here last year, which is 79.5%, which is one of the highest we've had since we've been open, that were here and they're proficient. Those, we do have a couple who stayed in third grade because we can give them more coaching and more support by keeping them at their current grade level. Others were promoted with what's called a reading retained identification, which means by the midpoint of the year, they need to have met that progress. And so we work with them through general education intervention or special education teaching and intervention to help them to enhance their reading. Teachers have conferenced with their parents as well. And at the beginning of the year, we're having the initial conferences first in fourth grade or third grade with those students who did either stay in third grade or move to fourth grade with that extra requirement that they do meet the expectation by the midpoint of January. So we're really proud. It's a phenomenal number, especially through having 65% of our students remain virtual in October. And then by the time we got back in April, we were still about half in, half out. So kudos to our third grade team as well, and our previous first and second grade teachers for preparing them well. But this is what we're looking at now, and we're real happy with those. And we have a plan in place already, which included summer school this past June and into July for the students who did not meet their proficiency to continue to grow them throughout the year.
Do we have any questions for Mr. Pond?
Just more congratulations.
Well, thank you. Great team, and I'm just happy to be alongside them helping them do what they do best.
Well, thank you, Steve. I'm telling you, you ever go anywhere else, there's going to be some giant shoes to fill. But
Well,
let's
I don't
not
have
talk
any
about that.
plans, so
Good. Good,
we're
because
not
if you
moving.
go,
We're
I may go
settled here in
too
the
with you.
triangle, and I love it here. So 3 good things.
All right. Well, as you guys can see on the screen, Khaditra has pulled up the board fund report. Khaditra, you want to run with that?
Yes, the board fund report is as of August 17th, 2021. And you all have an available balance, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I have to blow this up, of $68,902.39. Does anyone have any questions about your board fund balance? And Scott, this may be a great time too for Steve to actually walk through the board fund request that's on page, I think it's 193 of the packet, and I can pull that up really quick.
One thing I did want to share about the board fund report that's in there, there was some of the training during the month of July that we did that I don't believe all of it is requested or was requested, but I don't think it's all reflected on that page 10. So next month you may see some other things from the conference that we went to, the Model Schools Conference, where we were recognized and presenting there. So some of it from last year may appear next month or so, but that's going to be reflected on last year's. I am trying to scroll on my screen to 193. Please give me one sec.
And Steve, before you move forward, I just want to kind of give you a heads up. If there is something next month, what the board is going to end up receiving is their board fund rollover report. So if there's something that needs to stay open, just please alert us at that time, and then the board can approve everything except for those ones that need to stay open if the invoices haven't hit yet.
Perfect. And I am still scrolling. My apologies. I'm trying to get 193 on my screen.
Yeah, last page of the packet.
There we are. Perfect. I was scrolling more quickly than it could load as it was moving. So as I've requested in the past, it's very similar to the allocations that we hope that you will approve. We always appreciate, and our team always appreciates, the Valentine's Day and end of year celebration meals that you've done for them. They love seeing you when you're able to be here, getting to know you, because as they've come from the county, they often have a different perspective of school board and school board members than certainly the joy that you all bring and the support for them that you all bring. So we're requesting that again. The extracurricular activities would be things like coaching stipends and providing resources for the clubs and the intramurals and any kind of tutoring that we may do later this year. We left that the same budget as last year, but as you may recall, last year we asked for it to be reallocated because we didn't use it, and that allowed us to send a couple more teachers to the Model Schools Conference. So we're requesting it as if we will have these things, but there may be a surplus come February, March, or April that we may again ask for a revisitation of those funds rather than not use them at all. But that would provide extra after school stipends for teachers to stay after and run clubs once a week, provide tutoring when we do a boot camp starting the end of the third quarter in March. For students who are still struggling, it's extra free tutoring that we give them to help them catch up on their current year goals. Intramurals go hand in hand with the clubs. We do offer the middle school sports, and so we pay the coaches out of this fund. But intramurals is to pay teachers that will work with kindergarten through fifth graders on their sports programs, and they go along with clubs. So it was things like kindergarten through fifth grade volleyball and basketball. And I actually ran wiffle ball because I'm a big baseball fan, and a couple other different things we did through the year. But that's what the extracurriculars cover. The athletic program, we pull that out of extracurricular because we have to pay off-site referees and officials. We are not able to use our soccer field, our play field, for competition soccer because it's not sized appropriately. And so we do rent those fields from the town of Apex, and they've been great to work with us on cost. But this allocation will allow us to not use school funds to pay for extra outside of school rentals. And so we ask for your support in that. The behavior incentive programs, that's our positive behavior support initiative that, as you see when you're in the school, we always have our expectations phrased positively with what we want our folks to do, not a list of do not or don't do these things. So it might be a walk safely in the hall. Please hold the door for others, those kind of things. And so we do buy incentives, and when they earn certain incentives through Classroom Dojo or other programs that we use to give positive, check marks, they can trade those in for prizes and other activities, whether it be, lunch with their teacher, or it might be a pack of stickers or whatever their love language is. We have incentives for them. And then the last one is the professional development. Of course, we have the board professional development allocation reserved. And then the workshops and conferences. We are considering a different conference this year because we've repeated the model school conference and brought staff for 3 years in a row. And it is a little repetitive in the cycle of opportunities they do. So there's an innovative schools conference, which we want to go to because we do feel we've been quite innovative in the way that we do things to see what we can bring to their table and also take from theirs. So that's likely going to be the conference that we pursue. And so we've allocated that $10,800 for that, which brings us to the grand total of the $30,000 and leaves another $5,000 in reserve. So any questions about any of that, I'm happy to answer. And thank you for bringing that up on the screen, Khadija.
Oh, no problem.
Where is the innovative conference, Steve?
I need to look because it alternates years. It's either Orlando or possibly Las Vegas at one of the big resort centers there, which will be mighty hot. But hopefully you stay indoors. When we went to the differentiation conference years ago, it was indoors in Vegas and we never even had to go outside. I just pulled it up and it is in Las Vegas. It is actually 4 different conferences together. It's the National Conference on Innovative Teaching. It's the climate, School Climate and Culture Conference. There's one called Trauma Informed Schools that work with best practices on supporting students with emotional and behavioral needs. And then there's one in the middle of that, those 4, that is an at-risk and struggling students conference to help with academic engagement support. So it looks really outstanding, and it seems to have replaced the National Conference on Differentiated Instruction, which was in the same location and had 4 unique conferences very similar to this, but they're all under the same umbrella, and we can go to sessions in any one of the 4, which is a really neat opportunity.
Thanks, Steve. Any other questions for Steve on this board funds budget request?
Yeah, is there any wiggle room in the luncheons?
Go up, down.
The luncheons up. That's going to be real tight. We
Sure.
can probably work with it, but it's going to be tight in case there's some wiggle room.
And there is that extra 5,000 that's not even allocated.
Okay.
So that's there. In the past, I know it's a 35,000 total. This actually includes the 5,000 allocation for the board professional development as well. So there certainly is that wiggle room.
Okay. Thank you.
And we so greatly appreciate that y'all do that for us.
We love it.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, let's move into section 5, our discussion items. We got quite a bit to get through here and need to do it efficiently. So 5A is identifying potential board members. And look at her up there, and she's in my upper left-hand corner, Cheryl Hickman.
Hello.
Cheryl, did you have any questions for the board? I don't know how much you and Diane have, I don't know how much Diane has orientated you.
Well, I'm not real clear on what my role would be as a board member. So yeah, I'm just trying to, feel it out and I'm looking forward to touring the school on Friday. Steve's going to show me around, so I think
Right,
that's important.
nice.
So that's my main question. I mean, I guess I would be wondering what you are looking for in a board member and if I'm a good fit for you. I think that's important.
Well, Cheryl, you have an educational background, correct?
I absolutely do.
Oh, cool.
Yes. I
Well,
taught
unless the board,
kindergarten.
unless the board, unless the board has more input there, I would just share with you that actually you're going to get a little bit of schooling on it because one of our items is 5D, and that's board housekeeping. So we're going to be talking about board responsibilities under board housekeeping. I can tell you that at this time we have a vacancy in our presidency because Dr. Linda up and moved away. So she has resigned as of, I think it was the end of July. Bylaws require that the vice president conduct business in the absence of a president, and we are in the absence of a president. So we are looking to fill that president's role. In addition, if that's something that you're interested in, I don't know if time needs to, I don't know exactly how that needs to happen, but I would anticipate, and board, speak up please, that we would bring you in as a director. And that would increase our board count from, Deidre, I think, what, 7 to 8?
You are at 1, 2, 3, 7. Yes, currently 7.
I think that's right. Yeah. So we're currently 7. We would look to add you as an 8th, if that's what you're interested in doing and serving on the board. I guess you'll get more of a feel of it as we go through this. Board, do you any input from the board on any commentary or input or anything that you want to share with Cheryl?
I don't know if anyone has shared with Cheryl, but Khadidra, wouldn't you generally have an introductory session with her? I know that's what I experienced when I joined the board, and that gave me a good overview of what was expected of the board members. So Khadidra, is that something that you still would do?
Yes, it's pretty much called onboarding. So there's a list of things that I would pretty much go over as far as we can do it before you agree to be interested or after the interest, before the next meeting. So it just depends on your availability, but that can be done as well. And since we've been in this virtual setting, I've just been doing them via Zoom instead of in person.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I mean, I think I would like to do it, before. So within the next month.
So I will go ahead and I'll try to do it before the end of this month. So
Okay.
I'll just send you an email.
Sounds good. Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
Does Ms. Hickman have a copy of today's board packet?
She does not.
That might be a useful thing to do if we can send her one. I believe everything in here is public record.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be anything that would prevent her from having one. And that might offer her a useful sort of initial glimpse into sort of your usual, I mean, she's obviously getting some by virtue of just observing your meeting, but seeing the packet and the documents might be useful as well.
Good point.
Smart.
And Khadidra, that's something you can deliver electronically, correct?
Yeah, I'm doing it
Or at least
actually
give
right
the
now.
link.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you.
Okay. Any more commentary or conversation before we move on to discussion item 5B? All right. Item 5B is our safe return to school plan. That looks like it is starts on page 10 of your packet.
Oh, yes, this is actually follow-up from the last meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Khadija, yeah, sorry, I was kind of holding back while you finished that.
Okay. Yes, this is follow-up from the last meeting. I know there were a few questions, one being that it was still technically in draft form. And when I spoke to Jesse regarding that, Jesse is our manager of all the coordinating material. That is something that has to be done pretty much because, hold on, let me find. My computer's going crazy right now. Let me find my notes. So this plan that you guys viewed last month, does everyone have it out or do you need me to share my screen?
I have it up, but it
Okay,
might
if you share your
assist others.
screen, that would be
Yeah.
great.
All right, you ready? Do you have it up? I mean, can you see it?
Yes.
All
I
right.
Yes,
see.
ma'am.
So what this plan is, remember we were talking about the date of June 2021 at the last meeting. So this is a summary of the 2020-2021 instruction plan. And you'll see through the plan that it talks about all the background on the learning models from the 2021 school year, 2020-2021 school year, in person, remote, hybrid, virtual. And this is the stuff that we went over last month. It talks about social distancing and it focuses on the remote instruction primarily versus the in-person instruction. I know that was a question as well. But what had to happen was that these needed to be posted on the website ahead of being finalized in order to allow for public input. So that is why it's in the draft form and is unable to be changed. Now, at the last meeting, we kind of just went through it, but we didn't indicate in the minutes anything regarding, it was available for public comment or anything like that. So that even though we don't have public that has reached out or any public on the call, we still just have to indicate that in the minutes as a compliance checkpoint. Also, this plan has nothing to do with coming back to school for the 2021-22 school year. But this current plan will be modified at least every 6 months with the current school COVID protocols. The first review and update period is due in December. So what I did was, in efforts to kind of show you guys where it is, it's on your website under school operations. And since the last meeting, you'll see this bottom part that says safe return to school plan as of June 2021, draft, and then it says projected update December 2021. This was just for clarification because previously what it said was safe return to school plan June 2021 draft. So if a parent or anyone actually goes onto this site, they will see that this plan was as of June 2021. It's in draft form and projected to be updated as of December 2021. Does that make sense to everybody? So this will be a continuous, it's like a workable document, a working document, excuse me.
Khadija, is there any action on the board's part on this? It doesn't sound like it.
It's not. I know you guys had said the last time that you wanted to approve it, but I don't know if now maybe you want to approve it in December when it's updated, or do you want to approve this draft? It's not an issue with you approving it. So I just wanted to explain everything that we kind of had questions about at the last meeting.
This is Donna. May I ask a couple questions?
Yes, one dumb question.
Okay. I guess I wanted to clarify or perhaps emphasize that based on the cover sheet that's in your board packet, it may be helpful to be clear that this is a requirement of receiving the ESSER funds. Is that right, Khadija?
Yes, as part of the ESSER 3 submission process.
Right.
Correct.
And I would suggest to the board that that's especially important because as we have worked through COVID and will continue to work through COVID, there are various pieces of legislation or funding opportunities that certainly require plans or reports or things of that sort. And in fact, at some point I wanted, and for Khaditra, forgive me for this, but at some point, perhaps under your new business, if not a little bit right now, I think the board needs to spend a moment hearing about Senate Bill 654 out of the North Carolina legislature that was passed and signed off on just last, let's see, August 30th, I think last Monday or Tuesday, that requires, among other things, a virtual instruction plan for this coming year and things of that sort. So first of all, I think it's helpful to just be reminded that this document is specific to a requirement of ESSER money. And my other sort of question, comment on it that I may have already answered myself is that although the plan overall looks fine to me, it is interesting to me that there's no, I don't see any reference to the toolkit. And again, beginning with that this is an ESSER requirement, I still think it's important to recognize that much of what is being required in this plan is also addressed in the toolkit. And up until now, as a North Carolina public charter school, I think the board has sought to implement the toolkit and would continue to implement the toolkit. And for the most part, I don't think there are glaring inconsistencies, but I would just, ask to NHA kind of what should we be looking at in terms of the relationship between the ESSER plan and the toolkit.
Are you asking that now, Donna?
Yeah. Scott said,
yeah, because now some of the stuff that we kind of touched on that the last time. So when I was it was follow up.
okay.
But thank you for kind of clarifying all of that. And what I did was board members, I think the last time the toolkit, if I'm not mistaken, was updated was August 26th. And I made sure that I sent everyone copies of the most updated toolkit. So what I'll do is, I guess, just have to follow up via email, because as of now, all I have is this information and I don't know what is in the update come December. So the only thing that I could do is kind of just help you guys to reference the updated toolkit as of August 26th, which is kind of why I sent it your way via email. And it's like a current health guidelines or something like that, where it's on like maybe the first 5 pages or so. It's kind of like a quick at a glance. But if you want me to break that information down, I can do that as well.
And Khaditra, I do note, and I think it's very helpful, again, on that cover page, on page 10 of the packet, there is the indication at the very bottom that as CDC and state health department guidance is released for the 2021-2022 school year, your school's plan will be revised and provided for review. So perhaps, again, that's the answer, that by December, this ESSER plan might be updated for the toolkit. But I would encourage the board just to continue to keep the toolkit in mind, because it is the primary sort of guidance for public schools in North Carolina right now.
Thank you, Donna. And just to confirm, everyone got that email, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
And
so
then-
it doesn't sound like, oh, sorry, go ahead, Don, sorry.
No, I apologize. Finally, Scott, I just wanted to say that at some point, and again, if it's more appropriate for your new business, we can do that. But just wanted to talk briefly about Senate Bill 654, which, among other things, I think there are 2 items that I would draw to the board's attention for purposes of today's conversation. And that
Donna,
is,
I did, for minute purposes, I did have it included under new business because it wasn't in the minutes, so I did put it there.
okay, awesome.
I mean, not the minutes, the agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I may have the first version of the agenda. Scott, if you want me to, I'll just stop right there and plan to discuss that under your new business.
Deidre, you said you added, oh, you just now added that to new business.
No, I always just jot down like things I want to update you guys on. And if it's not on the agenda, I just put it in my template under new business.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's revisit that in new business because I've got a question about new business anyway. All right. So let's move forward. Item 5C, the 2021 NHA Board Symposium.
All right. So the Board Symposium, this is also a follow-up to our discussions last month. And it looks like the board members were unavailable with the exception of Michelle and Barbara because you guys were unavailable at the last meeting. So we were just going to follow up to see if you would like to attend the Board Symposium. And I'm going to pull that page up really quick. So the symposium is going to be held Tuesday, October 26th. It's going to be at the Inn at St. John's in Plymouth, Michigan. The registration deadline is September 24th. It's a one-day format. You come in the day before and there's an optional board dinner. It's $500 per person in order to attend the symposium. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys were or were not interested in attending this year.
I am so sorry, I cannot.
Okay. And that was, Barbara, was that you?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it would be really hard for me to attend just because of it being so close to the end of the month. Usually the last week and first week of the month are pretty busy for me.
All right. Thank you so much. So Scott, when we get to action items, 7C as in cat, there's no action.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Khadija, there's
Alrighty.
still no discussion about having this virtually or giving those who can't attend the opportunity to view sessions at a later date?
It will be recorded.
Okay, good. Okay.
So you'll be able to review sessions at that point.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies. Our next item is, and we'll kind of look at them together, D and E. That's the board housekeeping and the board packet and binder preferences.
Okay.
Khadija, take it away.
All right. So board housekeeping, this is just an annual item that we present to the boards around every August, September timeframe. So when we speak on this, it's pretty much just gentle reminders of board meeting attendance and how important it is to make sure that you RSVP for board meetings with the coordinator. And even if your availability changes up until, let's say, you guys 11:30, and then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, I can't come. Still connect with the coordinator to make sure that they know that you've had a change in RSVP, because sometimes what that does is it impacts quorum. So we want to make sure that, you know, everyone's time is being respected. The other is board meeting preparation. So please make sure that you review the packet prior to the board meeting. Scheduling board meetings, just be mindful of the frequency of canceling and rescheduling. Let's see, and board responsibilities, because we typically correspond with the board president outside of board meetings for certain matters. We ask that the board president promptly respond to requests by phone and email. This ensures that the school's compliance with items with tight deadlines are being met. And we also encourage boards to promptly fill vacancies on boards to ensure that you're compliant with your bylaws and charter contract and minimize any quorum issues. That's pretty much just the gist of the board housekeeping. Does anyone have any questions?
And if we
Donna.
find we can't attend, is that you or Sarah that we notify?
Sarah is always, the coordinator is always in charge of attendance. So
Okay.
she'll go in and update the system and then generate an email to everyone if that's necessary.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Donna. I have a question.
Mhm.
And once again, it's probably a little bit more of of a comment than a question. Under, let's see. Yeah, under board meeting preparation, you have the bullet point that if board members have questions, they should notify the board rep before the meeting. I just want to encourage, and I don't recall that this board has had a particular issue, but a lot of times it can come up or does come up, is just to be careful about email communication that could be considered deliberation outside of a board meeting. I think Khaditra and NHA's point is very well taken, and they do a great job of responding to your questions and gathering additional information in preparation for your meeting. But I would just encourage that you be careful that you're asking for additional information that will then inform your deliberations, as opposed to having a group email where you seek out information and then board members start going back and forth. Under the open meetings law, you're required to deliberate in your properly noticed open meeting. And that kind of email activity outside of a meeting is one of sort of the top ways to violate the open meetings law. So you want to be careful with that.
Thank you, Donna. Yeah, that's a good point. So while we can exchange or obtain information from NHA, we would refrain from any discussion around it, basically, and hold that off to the board meetings.
That's correct, yes.
Any questions around that to the board? Anybody have any questions? Okay. And Khaditra, I think we'll just slide into, yeah, you're there. You're way ahead of me. Go ahead.
All right. This is pretty much just also the time of year where we just ask a few questions about how you would like to receive your packets. So online packets are always available. You guys know you have the link to the portal. You click on that and you can obtain your online packet. And I know since we've been in this virtual setting, that's pretty much been the option. And last month I requested for you guys to get hard copy packets in order to kind of be able to have something tangible throughout your meeting. So hard copy packets on site, or you can have mailed hard copy packets. So let's say when you do go back in person, so what happens is the board rep will bring hard copies of your packet to distribute, and you won't receive them by mail. So prior to the meeting, you'll have the online option available to you, and at the meeting, you'll receive a hard packet, or you can get mail hard copies to your home. So which would you prefer? And I have
This
to
is
take like a
Diane.
consensus of the board. So it's going to be everybody's kind of consensus together.
This is Diane, and when we received the hard copy in the mail, what's been 2 years ago, I found that to be very useful in that I could focus better than using my screen and write notes as I read, and I felt like I was better informed, because I often can't print the copies out, but I guess it's just the fact that, focusing and reading, I find it better from a page that's tangible. That's just but I can work either way.
Diane, I'm right there
Whatever
with you. Yeah, I need mine. I need hard copies too. I'm right there with you.
This is Dixie. I support what Diane just said totally. I need a hard copy as well.
Okay. Barbara?
Yes.
Nicholas? You're on mute. We'll wait. Michelle?
I'm flexible.
Scott?
To do.
I do like the hard copy because it gives me the opportunity to review away from the computer. I'm ecologically minded, and I know that there's some costs involved with this, but on the other hand, it does make it for board members, to be able to step away from your computer, highlight, make notes, etc. you know, plus it's going to go into the binder. So I'm for printed copies.
And Cheryl, in a perfect world, what would you like if you were to join the board?
I would like the hard copies. I agree with all that. Mhm.
Yeah.
Great. All right. So now we can go over to the binder. So pretty much what some board members do is they have their one binder and then they just recycle that one binder with a new cover sheet that may say 2021-22 school year, or you can get a brand new binder. So if you want a new binder, they're only going to purchase the number of binders that are requested. So we can kind of do it the same way. How many binders do we need for the board?
No binder for Scott. I'll just
Recycle.
reuse the one I have.
I was gonna say, this is Dixie, same thing, recycle, my binder is fine.
Okay.
I don't need one either. I'll recycle my current one.
All right. Michelle?
Thank-
Fine.
I think I need a new one.
Okay. Barbara?
I need a new one.
All right. Nicholas, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I don't need a new one. I'm fine.
Okay. So we'll do 3 new binders.
Get Cheryl's.
Yeah, I added her to the 3.
Okay.
Okay. All right, that concludes my conversation on binders and packets, Scott.
Okie dokie. All right, rolling forward, we are going to look at item 5F. That is our fourth quarter financial statements.
All right, so the fourth quarter financial statements, I have them on the screen. They're also on page 61 of your packet, 61 of the PDF, or 59 of the packet. And this is your 12 months ending as of June 30, 2021. So this is pretty much how you ended the entire academic year. And your total revenues and transfers have had a percentage of budget remaining at negative 2.31%. Total expenditures are at negative 1.97%. So when you look at the following pages, it lists all your annual budget amounts relative to your year-to-date actual. And I've been seeing this quite consistently across the board as well, is that the year-to-date actuals have exceeded what was intended for your annual budget amount, which is pretty much how a few boards are ending up in the negative. But due to the way that your relationship is set up with NHA, regardless, everything is going to be covered. So even seeing the negative is not a scary moment. Does anyone have any specific questions that you would like me to ask accounting and get back to you on regarding your financials?
This is Donna. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The question has to do with insurance. Unless I
You
missed.
have a page you're referencing, Donna?
Yeah. There are 2 references to insurance that I was able to find. One was under operations and maintenance, where liability insurance is listed. And I apologize, I don't see the page. Let me see if I can find it on mine. But it shows liability insurance. Yeah, right there at $1,162. And the only other reference that I see to insurance is under board expenses. And there is a reference to board insurance at $10,549. And I note that that is pretty far above the budgeted amount of $7,700, right? I mean, the 7,700 is on the right is the budgeted column, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So one question is, why did the board insurance go so far over budget? And secondly is, do these 2 categories capture all of the insurance that the board/school has consistent with the charter requirements? And one of the reasons I asked this question is that you have essentially year-end figures here, but also I think it might be a helpful nugget of information as the board is looking at the refinance documents later on, because insurance is addressed, of course, in the services agreement. And it might just be helpful to be reminded of what insurance areas the board is required to have and where these are reflected in the budget.
Okay. All right, got it. Board members, did you have any additional questions that I could follow up on?
Was there something that said property insurance? I thought I saw.
Mhm. Under operations and maintenance, there is a property insurance line, yes.
Oh, okay, that's what I was looking.
Can you see it?
Yes, I do. Thanks.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, ladies. Okay, any other questions before we move on from the financial statements? Khaditra, you're taking that away and we'll bring that back when possible. Next
Yes.
meeting.
It'll be via email before the next meeting, but I can always repeat it at the meeting as well.
That's what I was trying to remember, if you were just going to email it out to us. But,
Yeah.
you know, after Donna's don't do business by email warning, that's where my head's at. But anyway, so you can follow up on those questions via email. Okay. Our next item of business and discussion items is item 5G, the 2020-2021 Board Satisfaction Survey Summary.
All right, hopefully everyone had the opportunity to read this. So I would just give like a brief overview. This board satisfaction survey summary is based off the board satisfaction survey that you all were given in the March timeframe. So what happens is that the collective responses are all pretty much reviewed by a few of my team members. And what they do is they compile a one-page document based upon the responses received from all of our partner boards. So based upon all of our, and the difference that we had this year as well is that since we were still in the COVID-19 environment, some of the questions were relative to COVID-19. So the overview of NHA responses were based upon the priorities in the survey. And it shows that the foundation of the partnership between NHA and the partner boards is strong. 92% of respondents indicated that they are either highly satisfied or satisfied with NHA as a management company for their school. 93% indicated that they will partner with NHA again. So these results are slightly higher than last year's results. And board member satisfaction with their school leader remains very high. And board member satisfaction with academic performance is actually at a 6-year high. Satisfaction with moral focus programs remains exceptionally high at 95%. And respondents continue to express high levels of satisfaction with the board rep as well as the coordinator. Typically, there are 3 areas that always seem to stand out amongst the survey, which is academic performance, parental involvement in school events, and typically it's financials. But this year, it was COVID-19 that kind of stood out. So does anyone have any questions about anything within the document regarding the summary? And any feedback that you guys have, always just connect with your board rep. If you feel like there's something that we can do more of or something that we can do less of, just let us know and we will make sure to try to accommodate our boards the best that we can.
Okay, so if we have no questions, oh, sorry, Khaditra, go ahead.
I was going to say that concludes the board satisfaction survey summary.
Okay, before we move on, any questions from you guys? All right, well, let's get into the meat and potatoes. discussion item 5H, the NHA refinance information. And Khaditra, I don't know where you want to go with this, or if we want to look to Donna to give us kind of the legal narrative on this. I've read through it. Sounds like it's a good deal, you know, for the school, right? You know, from a monetary standpoint. But Donna, have you had the opportunity? My understanding was that you as our counsel for Peak and NHA, that there were some back and forth going on around the NHA refinance information initiative. So is there anything you can share for us there?
Sure. I can just say to you that NHA has been in touch with our office for a number of months now. And don't tell them I said so, but I think they've done a pretty good job of planning and preparing for this. One of their attorneys who's leading this up has again been in touch with myself and my colleague Shante Martin, and giving us information, along with all the other lawyers who represent NHA partner schools in North Carolina. As I understand it, they have provided this same package of documents, as well as some of the other underlying documents that don't necessarily directly affect the board, but that were thought to perhaps be of value to the lawyers. So yes, we have been reviewing these documents, are continuing to review them. I had the opportunity to listen in on the webinar that I think you all also may have been in on one day last week, to hear NHA execs sort of give you the overview, which I thought also was very helpful. And am continuing to review the documents in detail. And I had an email last week from NHA's attorney saying that they were scheduling phone calls with the lawyers to get the lawyer questions. So as this process continues and everybody's sort of reviewing and asking their questions, yes, we've been participating, and again, had what I think was a helpful opportunity to get some sort of heads up a few months ahead of these documents coming in. And I don't know if, I think I've heard Khaditra do this presentation before, so I would at least pause and invite her or allow you to hear from her if you want to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Donna. And I heard Brian Britton give you your shout out during the meeting.
I got a shout out from Brian. I did. That was lovely.
All right, so board, what I'll do is I'll try to simplify this as best as possible. So what I gave what I'm trying to remind the boards are of kind of the timeline in which the information has been sent to them. So on August 16th is when I initially sent you the refinance initiative email. And August 20th, I sent you the refinance documents for your review, which are also included in this packet. On August 24th, I sent you the information regarding NHA's refinance webinar that took place on September 2nd. And this morning on September 7th, I sent you the recording of the webinar, just in case you missed it or just in case you wanted to rewatch it. So that is the information that you have thus far. And in addition to that, if you look at page 74, it kind of talks about the background on NHA's financing history, and then breaks down the details on the new financial model. So NHA is a for-profit company and cannot access tax-exempt bond funding. So to create those tax-exempt bonds, NHA pretty much has an independent, not-for-profit entity called Campus Partners One, which is a 501c3 entity. So Campus Partners One is going to utilize that 30-year tax-exempt bond and use proceeds to buy school properties, which is your facilities. So an independent national firm will appraise each of these properties as well. So Campus Partners One will be obligated to the bonds, and that also means that they're going to be required to repay them if that is an issue. So to generate revenues to repay the bonds, Campus Partners One will negotiate 30-year leases with partner school boards and the lease rates will be based on market rates for comparable properties with comparable uses to be reviewed and confirmed by the independent national firm performing the appraisals. Does anyone have any questions? I know I'm using a lot of terms here, so does anyone have any questions thus far? And NHA will still remain a private for-profit company that provides educational services to schools under the services agreements with the partner boards. So what NHA does, just to simplify, what NHA does for the schools is not going to change. The only thing that's going to change is who pretty much owns the facility. And Bob Owen went through that in his presentation as well. So this is the current structure. So NHA has the property lease with CDC, who is the, oh my gosh, I always forget what that stands for. I know it's Development Corporation, Charter Development Corporation, if I'm not mistaken. And the new structure would look as it does on page 86. So CDC is the landowner who would sell the building to Campus Partners 1, and then the bond insurance would go from there. Does that make sense to everybody? So the relationship goes, the current structure goes from this to this. And something that's been extremely helpful to me is just to compare the current services agreement to the new structure of the services agreement. So I created like pages 87 and 88 as my little cheat sheets. So this may be good for you guys to pull out as well, so you can see what currently is in place and what the new structure is going to entail. So the services agreement contains a sweep, and then it pretty much, the change will be the management fee will be a percentage of the revenue. And according to the, sorry, I got so many papers out right now. And according to the document that you guys received, your rate, hold on 1 second, I'm sorry, I want to make sure I get your rate correct. If I'm not mistaken, it's 18%. Yeah, 18%. Oh, I had the paper flipped over, sorry. It's 18%. So your proposed lease rate of, and let me know if I'm jumping, you guys, because I'm trying to make sure I do this as concise as possible. Does anyone have any questions about the structure comparison for the services agreement to the current structure and the new structure, first and foremost?
This is Donna, I do.
Okay.
And once again, I guess in typical Donna fashion, a couple of comments that I would offer to the board. I think I would suggest it's helpful sort of conceptually to attend to the fact that they're moving from what they refer to as a sweep to a fixed fee. And as you may have heard me say in the past, we represent a number of other boards in North Carolina who partner with other EMOs. And I will say most of the other EMOs use the fixed fee. And what NHA has shared is that they have indeed received feedback from some authorizers, I think perhaps more outside North Carolina than in North Carolina, but regardless, in this industry, apparently there's the idea that the fixed fee for management companies is preferred. I would describe to you it to you this way. Under your current services agreement with NHA, what you would find is that under the financial part, there's a description that all the revenue that the board receives, and I want to be clear that all of the revenue for the operation of this public charter school is the board's under both models. All the money belongs to the board. It comes to the board pursuant to you guys being the entity under the charter who is responsible for operating the school. So you are the recipient of the local, state, federal funds, any of the funds. So under the current services agreement, all of those revenues go to NHA. That's a sweep. You sweep all the money over to NHA. And then NHA has the responsibility for carrying out all the responsibilities set out in the services agreement for the operation of the school, pursuant to the budget. Under the new model, NHA will continue to have those same responsibilities. But with regard to the revenues, rather than sweeping them all over to the NHA, they get a set fixed fee of 18% as their fee. And I think you'll see that more when later on we're looking at the actual revised services agreement and looking at an actual budget and whatnot. To me, that's the primary difference here, is how NHA sort of accesses its payment. And you've probably heard or will hear the descriptions that the identified percentage is thought to be more transparent, because currently you don't quite know what NHA is getting. They just get all the money and they provide all the services. Here they provide those same services, but their fee is identified in your services agreement. And without going too far into this, looking at that chart that's on page, I think it's 85 of your packet, at the very bottom, there is a description that I take a little bit of issue with. The last item says that currently boards choose their board attorneys and auditors, and NHA covers their fees. Unless I've missed something somewhere, NHA doesn't cover their fees. Again, the money is coming out of all the revenues for the school that the board receives and is ultimately responsible for. NHA obviously manages this. They receive invoices, they pay invoices. But again, and I'll check with NHA just to make sure, but I don't think it's accurate to say that NHA, the word covers suggests that NHA is paying something on your behalf. They're pulling it from your money though. And of course, the board would always choose its own attorney and auditor. And in fact, your attorney fees and auditor fees, all of those things are currently in your budget. So again, I'm not sure there's really a difference as suggested there in that bottom part. I don't think that's problematic, but I think it's helpful for the board just to remember that the money is all yours under both models. It's more, in my recommendation to you, is how you designate how NHA gets its cut. And I'll stop there unless there's some questions for me. And I'm sure we're going to have opportunities to talk about this a bit more as you work toward considering whether you want to approve this. But Khaditra, those were my comments on that particular. I think that chart is very helpful, 85, but I would just offer that additional sort of overlay.
No, thank you so much. And just to kind of piggyback off of that, the next one is the same type of document, but it talks about your lease agreement, the current structure versus the new structure. So it talks about what I referenced earlier with CDC currently having the buildings now, and then Campus Partners 1 will own the buildings under their 501c3. And then it also talks about the building and the land lease and the public bonds and things like that. So does anyone have, and I'm hoping everyone had the opportunity to kind of read through more detail this information that Donna and I are kind of touching on as well. Any questions on the lease agreement? All right, and then it does the same thing with the credit facility as well. So it talks about NHA has a private credit facility with the bank group to fund operations and expansion. Under the current structure, the new structure, NHA will continue to have a private credit facility to fund day-to-day operations to manage the cash flow for the schools due to timing of state aid payments. So any questions about that? And what I'm looking for right now, I'm sorry, is your memo that actually is the school specific memo that walks through all of this information. And I'm not seeing it in your packet. Do you guys have it?
It's at the beginning.
The very beginning?
Page 75.
Okay.
It's before the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Is this the one?
75 is where I see the.
Oh,
peaks
here it is.
percentage numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Page 75. Yeah.
All right. So this is the piece that I wanted to go over with you guys very quickly, which is the summary of the key financial components for peak. So your proposed lease rate is $1,071, $1,071,950. This is a reduction of $750,000, a little over $750,000 from what is currently being paid. It also discusses the proposed school management rate of 18% that we previously discussed. And it talks about currently, like for instance, earlier we were going through board funds. That's the current system. So it will be replaced by a new system, which is boards can generate and accumulate fund balances of any amount. And that money will be used to invest in additional programming at the school, led by the board in consultation with NHA. So it looks as though your, at this time, like your annual school fund balance will be around $529,000. Donna, did you have any input on that?
I guess briefly to reiterate once again that
All the money is the school's money.
Yeah. Unless I missed something. If there's a NHA gift pot somewhere that I missed, please do correct me. But the current arrangement with board funds, I think, is useful, and all the boards that I know of use it. Mm-hmm. But it's not that NHA is giving you $35,000. It's that you have an agreement in your current services agreement that $35,000 is going out of the money that the school otherwise receives and that belongs to the school, is going to be set aside and labeled board funds, and you're going to use it in the manner that you do and make individual decisions over time about how those funds might be used in response to requests from school administration, for example, or the board's own initiative to do some additional things to support the core educational program. And that's a perfectly fine way to do it. It's not the only way to do it. I would just again emphasize that those weren't like given to the board and now they're being taken away. It's just going to be structured a little differently. And I would encourage you would be able to do the very same things you've been doing already. It'll just look different from sort of a financial management perspective, and it'll be budgeted differently.
You guys have any questions? I'm looking around.
Yeah. So board, do we have any questions at this point in time? Deidre, what's our timeline for taking action on this and the board agreement and everything that was included in our packet?
According to the webinar the other night, October-ish is what they're kind of hoping for.
Okay. Well, I think it'd be fair to ask the board to re-review or review for the first time the sections that we're looking at around the refinance initiative. Those comparison pages are outstanding, right? Because it gives us a before and after snapshot for those three different scenarios. So, Khadija, would it be appropriate to say that we ask the board to make sure that they read through, yep, and that any questions are presented back and send those to Khadija. Make sure that Donna and the rest of the board is copied, not for purposes of conducting business, but for transparency and information sharing. And then let's come back in October and let's look to take action on this.
And I will let you guys know too that when you are able to watch the webinar, if you haven't already seen it, pages 79 through 91 from your PDF are the slides that he reviewed within that particular presentation. So I just wanted you guys to know that. And and what I've been doing with other boards as well, is that I've been compiling all the questions just so there weren't like multiple emails, or kind of like how Donna was stating earlier, just trying to be mindful of the Opens Meeting Act as well. So I've been compiling the list of questions and then sending them to the entire board as well, just in one email, so it's not multiple emails. So you send them to me, and then I've just been combining everything so you guys know, and then letting you know your questions have been sent. And the email that I sent this morning, I think I sent it Friday. I asked you guys to have questions to me by September 10th, if you're able to. And that's because I want to make sure that I have the appropriate time to get your questions answered before the next meeting.
Scott, can I make an additional comment?
Of course.
I want to reiterate that my sense is that NHA has been appropriately mindful of legal counsel for the boards, because you're going to be asked to consider entering into new contracts, your services agreement and your lease primarily. And they've, again, given us information and are soliciting questions from us. If by chance anybody has a specific question for me, and you want to send the question just to me, you're welcome to do that. Me and Khadija is perfectly fine as well, but just want to make sure everybody's aware that I'm kind of supposed to be doing a job for you. So if you have a specific question for me, just let me know.
And Donna, when I get those responses as well, I'll make sure that you're copied on them, just in case it involves having to go back and dig a little bit deeper, which is why I gave the date of September 10th, to make sure if I need anything to go back, I have the opportunity to do so and say, hey, I need you to dig a little bit deeper into this response.
Okay.
All right. And that concludes our first board discussion on NHA refinance.
With a small add-on, you guys, so I think you understand your board homework is to review pages 78, 91, and just make sure that you're in tune with what's going on. And let's make sure that we get our question. That's what, 3 days from now. Today's 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So that's by Friday. So let's get our questions. Any questions that you may have, let's get those into Khadija by Friday, September 10th.
Yes.
Fair enough?
Scott, there's no deadline for questions to me, just so you know.
Well, if you have questions, let's get them all in by September 10th. No deadline. Donna says it's open, but let's try to coordinate these things and get our questions in by September 10th. Should anyone have additional questions? And again, I emphasize those 3 pages giving the before and after comparison is extremely helpful. All right, with that, moving forward, we need to move into closed session to take care of personal hire discussions. So we'll need a motion for that. Can we get a motion from the board or from the floor for moving into closed session, please?
So moved.
There you go. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
And
Was that Michelle
thank you,
with the second?
Michelle.
Yes, it was
Okay.
Michelle. Mhm.
All right.
Is this a roll call?
It sure is. You ready?
Yes.
All right, Scott.
Fire away. Yes.
All right, Michelle,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Diane,
Yes.
Dixie,
Yes.
Nicholas.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and put you guys in a breakout room. So hold on one moment. Oh, and since you are streaming live, when you're in the breakout room, I'll prompt you when you can start talking because I'm watching the live as well.
Sounds good.
And Scott, you're supposed to be in there, so give it one moment. There you go. And Cheryl, they will be right back, and I'm going to go join them.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, looks like we have everybody back.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so thank you guys. All right, so moving on to our action items, number 7 on our agenda. First item is 7A, the approval of the August 3rd, 2021 board meeting minutes that I was trying to get you guys to approve earlier, but I meant the agenda. So just to restate, Khadija, all the updates that we were going to make to the minutes have been made, correct?
Correct. The only thing is I noticed on page 179 of the PDF, 177 of your packet, that Cheryl's name is spelled with a C instead of an S. So that's under 5A. That just needs to be fixed.
Thank you.
Well, let's get that fixed.
Yeah, I'm used to it.
Yeah. All right. So with that one correction of a C to an S, I think our meeting minutes have been updated. So we'll need
I'm
yeah,
sorry, this is Donna. I just noticed I was not making much comments because this is a meeting I was not able to attend, and my colleague Shantae Martin participated, and I understood that she had submitted her review. I do notice though at number 6 on page 177, there's reference to closed session, and then it just says no action was taken. Was there a closed session or was there not a closed session? Because if there was not a closed session, I would recommend that this says no closed session, because otherwise it looks like you had a closed session but didn't report on it.
Yeah, we didn't do a closed session because Principal Pond was unable to go to that meeting.
Right. So I'd recommend that you just say no closed session. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
So Scott will be changing 5A and then number 6.
Okay. Sorry, my other computer shut down and all my packet went away. So I'm reopening that to make sure I can see it with you guys.
I'm sorry, I should have shared my screen.
No worries. No worries at all. All right, so now we are going to need a motion to approve our August 3rd board meeting minutes as amended.
So moved.
We have a motion from the board, please.
Michelle moves.
Diane second.
Right.
Roll call.
Scott?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yeah.
I abstain. I was absent.
Barbara?
I was absent.
All right. Diane?
Yes.
Dixie?
Yes.
Nicholas?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So one question, we had 2 abstain. Donna, does that have any bearing on quorum for approving these minutes?
It does not really have bearing on quorum. I will make a brief comment and then we can perhaps talk about it later if you would like to. I would suggest to you that if you were not present in the prior meeting, you can still vote on the minutes, because when you're voting on minutes, you're not asserting that, yes, that's exactly what happened in the meeting and I was there. You're just approving the document as reflecting that the board met, and you would be relying in part upon your fellow board members. So you're just approving the document as a business record of the board, not sort of testifying that, yep, that's exactly what happened. So again, we can discuss it later at another time if you want, and individual board members can perhaps let me know if there's a particular concern you have that you think requires your abstaining.
No, in my case, just another not-for-profit board that I was on, that's how they handled minutes, but I'm okay to change mine to yes if that's if that's the position on it.
I fully agree.
Are we changing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, ladies. All right, then our next item, and forgive me, you guys, I'm going to push through this because I have a hard stop at the top of the hour, and I'm probably going to need to drop in 10 minutes for that prep on that meeting. I still have a day job like Donna. So 7B, approval of personnel hires. I think we go straight to roll call if I recall correctly. Or do it, no, I beg your pardon. We need a motion on that, beg your pardon.
And if you specified a position, like sometimes like first grade, second grade, or something like that, we can do that as well.
So you're talking about the presentation of the motion. So the motion for the approval of the personnel hires as presented by Steve in the closed session. Can we voice it in that manner?
Fine. Yes, that's fine.
Okay, board.
So moved. Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle.
Second, Barbara.
All right.
All right,
Scott.
now roll call. Sorry about that. Yes.
Scott? Michelle?
Yes.
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Dixie?
Yes.
Nicholas?
Yes.
All right, so it sounds like we have unanimous agreement on that. The last action item that we had listed on today's agenda is item 7D. We're not going to, no action required on 7C, beg your pardon. 7D is the, excuse me, is the approval of the 2021-2022 Board's Fund budget request. That's on page 191 of your packet. So we'll need a motion for that.
This is Dixie. I move that we approve the request for the funds.
Can you state the amount?
Thank you, Dixie.
The amount, is it
Dixie, I don't know if it's in front
$30,000?
of you.
Yes,
$30,000?
correct.
Thank you, Dixie. Yeah.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank
All
you.
right, Scott?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Dixie?
Yes.
Nicholas?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passes.
Motion passes. All right, that concludes our action items for today. Our next item on the agenda is new business or next agenda. I'm going to only have a few minutes, but I'm going to bring up the email that I only saw a few hours ago. An email I think that originally went to Linda, and then also Steve, I believe also to you. I can't remember if you were copied in on that one or not.
Yes, and I have obviously communicated with him about that as well.
Rather than me fumble through this, my high level review of this morning quickly was that that the parent, I think Mr. Zong, is that
Yes.
correct? That Mr. Zong was asking about virtual instruction.
Yes,
Really was the gist of the whole communication, correct?
correct.
Okay. Do you want to fill the board, take a minute and fill the board in on, kind of provide some background? I don't know who's.
Sure. On behalf of to all of you as a board, Mr. Zong just wrote about the passing of Bill 654, and that does allow charters to offer virtual learning. He had some statistics about the Delta variant. And his encouragement was that we excuse children from school if they stay home, or we give them virtual learning. I had previously explained to him, as he was out, his child was out for a couple of days. He had communicated that there may be a possibility of having a positive diagnosis, but in this case, he had not tested or followed up with the teachers as they tried to contact him. And it was only after him missing a good amount of school for the beginning of school that we reached out, that said we needed his child to attend school if he needed to stay at Peak, that he then wrote to the board to express that we should be offering optional virtual, or just let children not come to school and have an excused absence, which I previously explained were not options at this time.
Scott, may I interject?
Of course.
I have not seen the email, but I would suggest, as the board raised this question earlier, that if the board is going to talk about an individual student matter, that it be done in closed session. I don't know if it's necessary to talk about that one at this point. I'll just kind of jump way ahead and let you know, of course, the board had earlier said it wanted to put Senate Bill 654 on the agenda as a new business item. And being mindful of time, but also because this is the situation, Senate Bill 654 does allow schools to authorize virtual instruction for this current school year, but you have to comply with two requirements. One is getting parent consent. The other is that the governing board has to submit to DPI a specific virtual instruction plan by October 1. So my expectation was that it was unlikely that the board would be able to do that in the meeting today. Certainly appropriate for you to be aware of it and recognize. And the part I'm referring to is down on page 5 of the session law, if you're displaying it. So again, it requires you to submit a virtual instruction plan. And I don't know what NHA's recommendation is, but I have a real concern because the language of the statute is specifically that the governing board has to submit this plan. You have until October 1 to do it, but you do need to do that. The other thing is that the Office of Charter Schools provided a guidance document on Senate Bill 654. And my understanding is that they anticipate offering you a framework for your virtual instruction plans. Probably, I'm thinking, similar to the remote instruction plan rubric that they offered last year. In any case, again, this was just passed last week. So it's, in some respects, I guess, hot off the press, but it's something the board should know about and perhaps should contemplate acting on, but it might require a special meeting between now and October 1st.
And to kind of piggyback off of what Donna was saying, that's a piece of what I was going to discuss with you all as well, because I'm still waiting guidance on that virtual learning plan that's to be submitted to DPI no later than October 1st. So I didn't have that information to provide to you all today, but I'm anticipating a special meeting, as Donna stated, would be necessary. And the other is that the boards must meet at least once per month on whether face covering policies need to be modified, but we don't have a face covering policy. Well, I guess Steve, are you acting in accordance with your locality at this time regarding face coverings?
We are.
Okay. So just making sure that, we have something put in place as well. And Donna, I'll speak to you offline about that, because most likely to be, working with board legal counsel to create that particular document. So that is pretty much the gist of the high level stuff.
We have explained.
So Donna, sorry, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
As I say, we have explained to our parents that we are masking for safety, and we share data that I'm able to share with you as well. in regards to the 109 of 115 districts across North Carolina that have mandatory masking. We do that inside the building and whenever students are outside clustered in a group, as when they're waiting for their cars. They don't have to do it when they're at recess on the playground, that kind of thing.
One quick question, because I'm sorry, y'all, I'm going to have to conclude this today's meeting. Donna, did you say, excuse me, this House bill gives us the option? It doesn't require
Correct. So
that
the
we
language.
have a virtual plan.
Correct. If you look right there, Part 3B, plan virtual instruction, the language is public school units shall be authorized to provide. And one of the challenges was that prior to this legislation, there was no authority for you to provide a virtual instruction option similar to what you had last year. So this gives you that authority. And it gives you, again, those two requirements to have a plan that addresses 14 different items that are in the statute and to make sure that you have a parent consent provision.
Gotcha. Khaditra, you said earlier, or you made a comment earlier. So my question is this in play with NHA to address a virtual plan? Okay.
Oh, now addressing a
that,
virtual plan, I'm sorry, I thought you meant making sure that we're in compliance with Senate Bill 654. As far as addressing the virtual plan, that's what I'm still waiting. I'm waiting guidance because I don't have any documentation that I've read beforehand in order to be able to provide you an answer.
Just sent you all the guiding document from the charter office.
Office of Charter Schools.
Okay, well, that's just going to have to be future business then for the October meeting. So I'm sure that we'll make sure that that's on the agenda. I don't have anything else other than the fact that I've got to go back to work. So I believe we need a motion to close today's session, please.
This is Donna. I'm sorry. And I don't know if you need to hand it off to somebody else, but I think you need to at least ask for public comment. I don't know if you have any or not.
Oh, beg your pardon. Thank you, Donna. Well, number 9 on our agenda is public comment. I don't believe we have any attendees other than our invitee, Cheryl. Is there any public comment? All right, then. Thanks, Donna. So motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right. So quick roll call. Scott?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Dixie?
Yes.
Nicholas?
Yes.
All right. Meeting adjourned at 1:56.
Everybody.
Donna,
Thank
did
you
you get
guys
my
very
email?
much.
I did
Thank
not.
you.
Okay, I'll resend.
I forwarded
Thank you.
it too, Donna.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
All right. I'm going to send you an email shortly.
Barbara,
Okay.
I just got it.
Thanks.
All
Okay,
right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.